Hey guys, Shelter here. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about, basically, I'm going to be ranking each faction based on how much playtime the average player will have on it. So basically, how well populated each of the campaigns are in terms of like how many players play them, etc. Now this is of course speculation for this, for the most part, but yeah, most of the time I think I will be doing this with like, I would say mostly logical, like, based on, players, I've talked to a lot of people about this and, I've taken a lot of people's accounts into this, so, yeah. So this is just me looking at what I think are the most, so basically every faction from least played to most played, essentially. Anyways, let's start on with number 8 and then work our way up. Act like you didn't see this coming at number 8. Yeah, dead last has to be Axis Tunisia. People joke about this game, this one having bots, and there's a lot of things that hold water about this. Now, why is Axis Tunisia so, well, underplayed? First off, really, most of the weapons here you can unlock in most of the campaigns. Car 98k, pre-war Car 98k, Car 98k, Gavir 41. The Italian the Carcanos and the whatever the hell this is, make up for this. But then you also look at this, M30 Luftwaffe drilling, MP40, Beretta, MP28, OVP. Really, only Beretta M1 in assault weapons is unique to this, and the Carcanos are unique to this campaign, and maybe the Beretta pistols, obviously, but. Yeah, when it's only, what, even three weapons is like, and because these are basically, when it's only a few handful of rifles, and one SMG and a bunch of pistols that are the only unique stuff about the campaign, and everything else is shared on other campaigns, which have been out for longer. Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, you can understand why people just don't like this. As well as this as well, people aren't really as interested in the Italians, I think, as much as, say, for example, late war Germans, Americans landing on Normandy, early war Soviets in general. So, I think that comes into it as well. Anyways, let's move into number 7. For number 7, it has to be the British. I mean, I know how much I do like the British. I love the British, obviously. I'm British for fuck's sake. But even I have to admit, it's got the exact same problems as the Axis. A huge recycling of weapons. Only a few of these, like I mean, this one's a bit worse because some of these are actually, some of the British weapons are actually in Normandy as well. And it's probably a worse collection, actually, like. But I think the thing is that the British at least have, like, some unique flavour to them. Like, they've got the Boys AT rifle, for example, the Enfields, and the SMLEs, obviously. And, some of these revolvers are unique as well. But this comes out, I think, the big problem with Tunisia in general is that, again, harping on to the same point with the Axis, Tunisia, it's just full of Normandy stuff, like, especially Normandy allies. Like, Normandy allies basically is Tunisia. The only real downside is that, well, Tunisia has a few more unique stuff. I'd say has probably I mean, if you look at the tanks, for example, all of the Tunisia tanks are exclusive to Tunisia for the allies. Whereas if you look at the Axis, yeah, most are, but there's still the Panzer 3J, which I believe is on Moscow. But yeah, anyways, there's not really much to say here about Tunisia. There hasn't already been said by the Axis. Anyways, let's move on to number 6. Coming in at number 6, and this one might be a bit controversial, so hear me out. It is gotta be Berlin Soviets. Now, Berlin Soviets, it's a fun campaign, don't get me wrong. I love Berlin Soviets. But the problem with Berlin Soviets is the same reason as Tunisia. There's not much. There's barely any uniquity with. The only thing that's really unique is you get the PPSs, and you get a few late war rifles and LMGs, which I would say makes it more unique then. But then Tunisia, but really, there's not much. It's still the same PPSH spam that you do in Moscow. There's not really much to it. There's some changes like the Panzerfausts, obviously, and the Panzerfausts. That's actually all I can think of. Like, but generally, have you ever seen an IS-1, for example? That's what I want to know. I've seen one IS-1 since the update came out, since Armored Train came out. I have seen much more Tigers than I've seen IS-1s. Like, I think I've only seen, like I said, I've only seen it once. With a Tiger, I can count on, the amount of times I've seen a Tiger goes into at least the double digits. You know, in games, which I see more Tigers than I see Panthers on Normandy. So, yeah. Arguably has to be, you know, has to come in at number 6 as the sixth most, you know, the 6th played faction. Not really much to say, really, about it. There's, you know, it's a good faction, don't get me wrong. It's still a really good faction, and it's one of my favourites, but you don't see many Soviets in Berlin at the moment. Anyways, let's move on to number 5. Coming in at number 5 is Moscow Axis. Now, Moscow Axis, I generally think is another really underplayed campaign. Now, obviously, I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments who are like, how dare you, you know, I play Moscow Axis all the time. I'm sure you do, The problem I have is, the reason I'm saying this is that, compare it to the other Axis, the other factions I haven't said, which are Axis Berlin, all of Normandy, and Allies Moscow, right? Now compare all of that to Axis Moscow. How many times, you know, I've heard people complain about bots on Axis Moscow. I've never heard bots complained about on the other 4 remaining factions. I haven't heard bots complain much on Berlin, but I'm giving the Moscow Axis ones the benefit of the doubt due to there being being a higher skill level, higher, you know, level for the average player, I'd think, with this one. And people still do play this campaign a lot, mostly due to stuff like the MKB, the F1, you know, the Berettas and stuff like that. But mostly for the MKB. If we're being honest, most people just play to try and get the MKB. But the problem with the MKB is there's a better version of the rifle it's a sniper rifle. There's a better version of it in Normandy, as in it doesn't have the scope, and it can be used by assaulters and like tank crews and stuff like that. Which is why I have to put it at number 5. I'm not saying that this is infested with bots like Axis Tunisia, but it's not as well played as other campaigns, which is why it's coming in at number 4. Number 5, I meant. Anyways, let's move into number 4. Coming in at number 4 is actually my favourite faction in the game. It is Axis Normandy. Now, the reason I think Axis Normandy is a bit more played than Axis Moscow is mostly because of the MP43 and the FG42. These weapons are stupid powerful, and almost every great player, pretty much every top tier player has MP43s and swears on the MP43 as a fantastic weapon, which it is. There's also great stuff like the Panther, obviously, which is one of the best tanks in the game. You've also got other iconic German weapons like the MG42, the MP40, and stuff like that. Obviously, there are some, and if I'm being honest, some of these weapons aren't seen in other campaigns. MP43, FNAB, ZK, so that adds to the appeal. As well, you know, the Maz 36, this thing, and even the Stern pistol isn't found in another campaign. So why is it only at number 4? Well, as you know, even though it's my favourite, and I do know a lot of people who play Axis Normandy, it is nowhere near I think, as popular as the other campaigns, which I'm going to get into right about now. Coming in at number 3 is definitely Axis Berlin, and this is because of one thing in particular. It's right here. Hold on, let me just scroll down. Apologies for the latency. It's the Tiger. Okay, the Tiger, and of course I've got 50 fucking error messages at the top. The Tiger is one of the most iconic tanks of the war. I mean, everyone knows what the Tiger is. And basically, I'm pretty sure when the update when the Tiger, when it was announced, everyone was so hyped. Like, if you don't remember, the update when the Tiger was announced was immediate. Like, even I was reviling the update before the Tiger came out. I was still mixed on the update, but the Tiger nearly made people think, oh, this update's actually going to be really, really good. It wasn't the best. Armored Train wasn't the best. It was okay, but it wasn't like other updates. But yeah, the Tiger E is a very, very, common thing. Many people think it's many people are probably grinding just to get this. I mean, personally, I'm actually quite interested in grinding up Berlin just for that, but there's another reason why I don't want to grind up Berlin. There's also, a lot of other stuff, like there's a lot of unique, Volkssturm weapons, like, for instance, the MP308, the VG105, 1-5, the VG2, and you also get stuff like the FG42-2, which is only found in Normandy as a sniper weapon. You also get the MG34 with the drum mag, which is really cool. By the way, this is actually a really good LMG. You just get the Faust 100, which is really good. And you just get a lot of stuff with with Berlin, which is why it's getting the number 3 spot. And of course, everyone's grinding out for the Tiger and the Panther, because the Panther's much easier to unlock. And we all know that those wereaboos literally just love their tanks. Love their German tanks, even though German tanks weren't the best tanks of the war. There, I said it. Anyways, let's move on to number 2. Coming in at number 2 is the Soviets in Moscow. Now, the Soviets in Moscow, I'm pretty sure when the game launched, the Soviets in Moscow were by far the most played campaign. And I think they still are the most played campaign. Now, the reason for this is stuff like the PPSH, the PPDs, obviously Mosin, but also stuff like the Winchester, and, and some interesting weapons like the PTRS, which aren't seen in other campaigns. Knows what I mean there, but... And also because, like I said, when the game came out, most of the player base, well, quite a good portion of the player base, are from the East, so they would probably more gravitate to Soviets than the Axis. Plus as well, I think if you look at some of the old weapons like the PPD, I believe, or this version of the PPD, and like the Winchester, the Soviets had better quality weapons in the initially. I mean, obviously they had stuff like the Madden as well, which is apparently not that good, but you can see how good some of the weapons are. Like, they get stuff like they get 3 they get 3 drum mag SMGs compared to the Germans that don't get a single one, which, I mean, that's realistic, but yeah. So, why is it only at number 2? Well, you know exactly what's number 1. I'm pretty sure you clicked in the video knowing what number 1 was. So, yeah, let's not sugarcoat it. Let's go over to number 1. I mean, do I even need to say any more? This was the faction I started with, and one of the reasons... I've heard people who said that the only reason they wanted to play Enlisted, and the reason they started playing Enlisted, was because of maps like D-Day. I'm not even kidding with that, by the way. People have literally said that they wanted to storm the beaches of Normandy, as the Americans, some of my mates have even told me that, oh, I want to storm the beaches of Normandy as the Americans. I said, oh, cool, there's a game called Enlisted. And they've actively played the game as the Americans and only the Americans because they're like, oh, I really want to play as the, I really want to storm the beaches of Normandy. Yeah, there's not really much to say about the Americans that hasn't already been said. I mean, it's the Americans. You know, a large portion of the player base are Americans, so they're obviously going to gravitate to the Americans. It's a bit like how some, you know, people, you know, loads of, you know, German players probably gravitate towards the Axis. Obviously not all players do this, but I'd say, especially with Americans, they will more gravitate towards the Allies. As well as this, you know, there's just a load of iconic weapons here. The Garand, the Thompson, the BAR, the bazooka, the M2 flamethrower. You know, you've got stuff like, you know, iconic weapons. Plus, I think there's also the fact of, you know, if you've seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, people would probably, I mean, Russian Badger himself said that the you know, the maps, the invasion map is literally looks straight out of Saving Private Ryan. So I reckon people saw that and thought, oh, it's, you know, I've got to, you know, I want to play this so I can reenact Saving Private Ryan. Which, of course, fantastic movie, but yeah. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, that the obviously, of course, this is mostly my views on this because I'm mostly guessing half of this stuff, but yeah, I think it is a safe bet to say that the Invasion of Normandy Allies is by far the most popular campaign in the game. In fact, it was so popular, I think when the game got released on consoles, you literally would go into games where you just have entire enemy teams of allies. When I was playing as Axis, there was just entire enemy teams full of console players with bolt actions, Stuarts, all of M3 grease guns, all on the Allies team. And then you just had the and they're being matched up against me and my mates who are armed with MP43s and FG42s and all of that for jazz. Those were some fun days. Oh, those were fun days. As well as that as well, Allies Normandy is probably the most complained about campaign, like in terms of how powerful it is. I mean, obviously, example, you know, basically reason A through Z right here of why this campaign is so hated. But you've also got reason, you know, AA to ZZ right here as well. You know, people complain about Normandy so much, it's actually getting boring at this point. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Leave your thoughts in the comments, what you guys think is the most played or the least played campaigns. And I'll see you guys in the next video.